Hi everybody, I hope you're all doing really well. Now today is a very exciting video because it is my 500th video that I have uploaded onto YouTube, which is so incredibly exciting. This year just generally is quite a key one for Coynie Reads. It's going to be my 5th anniversary of uploading booktube videos in May. I turn 30 in 2 weeks after this video goes live, and as I say, today is number 500 and I'm absolutely thrilled. I put a video out a couple of weeks ago asking for any questions for a Q&A as well as any other ideas that people had for how to celebrate. I had quite a few questions come through, so I'm going to answer those today. Though I might take some of those videos forward to when I celebrate 5 years on booktube, so it won't be long to wait. So without much further ado, let's just get straight into these questions and celebrating 500 videos on Coynie Reads. What Victoria Red asked my question, and I know it's a bit of a mean one, sorry. Which of your videos is your favourite and why? Alternatively, give us a top 5. And that is definitely a bit of a hard question. I know a lot of people don't like going back on their videos, but I don't know what it says about me. I do quite like going back and seeing how I've progressed, or sometimes just to see what was it that I said about this book in this video. I have a terrible memory, so it's always really good to look back and be like, that's what my thoughts were. But that means that I am quite comfortable looking back on my past self and I don't get too embarrassed. I'm definitely going to give a top 5 of videos that I am the proudest of. So one for me is my Wolf Hall trilogy video. That was the very first review video that I did on Coynie Reads. And I still feel 4 years later like that was a pretty good video. Definitely not perfect, but I feel like I came across well, that I got out all of the history rants that I wanted to. And it is a pretty reflective review on my channel for the rest of the kind of books that I love to read and the history that I love to talk about. My 2 Hamilton videos where I selected a book to represent each of the songs from the musical Hamilton. Lesser watched videos from me, but I brought them out around the time that the Pro Shot came out, and it was just such a fun experience planning that video because I literally woke up with the idea in my mind, picked out all of the books that I wanted to use for it by lunchtime and then filmed it that day. It was a bit of a fever dream of a day and I still stand by it. This is a bit of a cheat, but basically all of the videos I did chronicling my reread of Les Miserables by Victor Hugo, I am just really proud of those videos. I still get comments of people coming back to them when they are trying to read Les Mis, and I just hoped that they would be a useful resource as well as just being able to demonstrate my love of this book, and I think I achieved that. A video I don't go back to very often, but that I still love is my Jane Austen rankings video where I go through the 6 major novels of Jane Austen and go from bottom to top in terms of my favourites. As I say in that video, there is no bad Jane Austen book in my opinion, there's just ones that I like more than others, but pretty much I stand by all of my opinions from that video, even if there are some that might potentially be a bit controversial. And then finally, one that I really enjoyed doing was my historical fiction timeline video, where I'm basically going through all of the historical fiction that I've read, but chronologically through this time that the book is set. Definitely one that I could update now. It's been 3 years since I did that video, but I thought it was a really fun concept and I think it came out well. Shannon over 155 books says, what's your dream book synopsis? A book that you'd love to read that doesn't exist yet. Oh my goodness, I actually don't know the answer to this. In my mind, I've always thought that I definitely must have a book in me. They always say either you will have a marathon that you will run or you have a book that you will write. I loved writing as a child, but it's something that I pretty much dropped once my GCSEs hit and I just found that I had no time. But I still maintain this idea in my mind that I could write a book one day. But so far, the inspiration for that has not struck, and I feel like if I came across a dream book synopsis that didn't exist, then surely I would have written it by now. But I'd be really curious to know what your dream book synopsis would be. I have ideas of books that I'd like to see, but none of them would really be like that pinnacle dream book. Kieran over at Katie Books says, Ulysses read along. I'm not going to dignify that with an answer, Kieran. At Bad Faith For You asks, how do you fit YouTube into your life with work and musical theatre? The answer to that is badly. I've still not quite worked it out. But in short, I generally try to film on Tuesdays and Thursdays because those are days that I work from home, so I tend to film in my lunch hour, as well as on weekends when I'm not out and about somewhere. I try and schedule my editing to evenings after work that I have free, generally Mondays and Wednesdays. And once again, weekends, I get a lot of editing done on weekends when I don't have anywhere to be. I end up referring to 2 different Google calendars, one that is just for YouTube, so I have one calendar which is the exact upload date of the videos that I want to schedule, and then I have another calendar to plan out and schedule when I'm going to film those videos. I like to have around about 3 days in between filming a video to uploading it, if not longer, and so I'm then also referring to my personal calendar which shows where I'm going to be things that I have on. So I know that if I have a completely full weekend, say I'm going to London, I'm not going to be able to film or edit any videos in that time. And so I either have to compensate for that on Tuesday and Thursday when I'm working from home, or I just have to accept that I'm not going to have a video out for that particular day. Through most of the time on my channel, I have had Tuesday and Friday as my upload date. I had Sunday as an additional upload date in the first year because I wasn't working. It was during COVID, but that quickly tailed off once I got my full-time job. And it's only been the past month or so that I've actually been able to bring back 3 videos a week as a more consistent thing. But I'm not putting any pressure on myself. Some weeks you'll get 3 videos, some weeks you'll get 2, some weeks you'll get 1, and maybe some weeks you won't get any at all because I just have no time to film, and I have increasingly become okay with that. I think the moment that you start putting pressure on yourself is the moment that this becomes not fun. And so while I don't have a perfect system, I'm trying to be a little bit easier on myself. Emily at Novel Novels says, if you were to hold a dinner with 5 authors dead or alive, who would you choose? It's funny, this question comes up quite a bit, but I never actually have a proper answer for it. Because I feel like for this, you'd want authors who are like good socially, who you would actually be able to talk to, rather than inviting all of your favourite authors who might not actually be the greatest to talk to and might just be a little bit closed off. I feel like I would have to invite Jane Austen. I don't know how she would be as a dinner guest, and I have a sneaking suspicion that she would go home and she would write a letter talking about how terrible the company was. But I feel like I would have to. I'd have to. I wouldn't invite Charlotte Bronte as much as I love the Brontes because I just don't think she would be a very good guest. I would invite Elizabeth Gaskell though, because from the biography that I read of her, she was actually pretty much a social butterfly. She actually really loved people. She's a rare author who enjoyed writing about people and being around people. And also she would have all of the Bronte gossip that I otherwise wouldn't get. I do have questions about how Jane Austen and Elizabeth Gaskell would get on with each other, since I feel like a lot of Elizabeth Gaskell's plots are kind of adaptations of Jane Austen. So I don't know how Jane would feel about that, but hopefully they would get on. I feel like the people I'd actually want to invite are historians, but I'm going to limit it to one, and I'm going to invite Kate Lister, who is author of A Curious History of Sex and Harlots, Whores and Hackabouts, but she's also the host of the Betwixt the Sheets podcast, and I feel like she'd be great because she would be talking non-stop and she would be trying to get the dirt out of all of the other authors. With that in mind, I couldn't invite Charles Dickens because even though he might be a good dinner guest, I just know that he and Kate would clash over the treatment of his wife. Though with Kate Lister in mind, maybe I should invite Victor Hugo. He might be quite a funny person to have on side, and she'd be able to definitely get a lot of dirt out of him. And then maybe I'd invite Hilary Mantel just to get a little bit of Tudor insight and information and just have a gush about that with her. I did meet Hilary Mantel about a year before she died at a performance of The Mirror and the Light when that became a play, and she seemed really, really lovely. At Lirio Delagua, I'm really sorry if I've pronounced that wrong. There are a few questions here. Can you identify 3 things that when you achieved them made you feel like you were making progress in your YouTube journey? They could be anything like how to better set up your recording area, or how to manage your time, or how to recognise which books you should prioritise. I am hopelessly a words of affirmation girl. If somebody tells me that I'm doing a good job, that is the best thing that I can hear. So for me, it was getting shout outs early on in my YouTube journey that really made the biggest difference and made me feel like I was doing something right. And honestly, it still does. It's still such a really big boost to my confidence when somebody shouts me out on their channel. I just like being told I'm doing a good job. But a month or so into doing my videos, I got a shout out from Lucy the Reader, and that was incredibly lovely. I would never have guessed that she'd be watching my videos, but she shouted me out on Insta stories, and I was just very proud. Another little achievement of sorts was getting a new phone. I started filming my YouTube videos on my iPhone 7, which at the time was around about 3 years old. It had 32 gigs of storage, which really is not a lot when you're trying to film YouTube videos. You need a lot more storage than that. And so in March, just before I moved down to Oxford, I upgraded to the iPhone 11. You can definitely see a big jump in camera quality, as well as the fact that I had jumped from 32 gigs to 64 gigs. So it just meant that I was able to feel a lot less stressed when filming, particularly when I was bulk filming, that I was about to completely kill the storage. And also I was able to send videos straight to my Mac without having to edit them down first. And that was definitely very helpful. Another little like smoothing out my process achievement was using Google Calendar rather than trying to use a spreadsheet to track all my videos. I have been such a proponent of calendar blocking for a very long time, and yet it hadn't occurred to me that using Google Calendar would be a good way of tracking my videos and where to film things and where to upload things, rather than doing them by hand in an Excel spreadsheet. I'm not a spreadsheet girl. Why was I trying to force that on myself? Whereas I can just kind of click and drag YouTube videos like calendar events and schedule things that way. So much easier. Question number 2 from them is, how tall are you? I am 5'8". And question number 3, have you thought about doing short book reviews using lines from one of your musicals? As in, you sing a line that you feel somehow describes the book. Kind of love this idea. I'd have to definitely put some planning into that. Another musical related question comes from Aaron Readerbook. As you were responsible for my love of the musical Les Mis, what musical would you recommend next, preferably historical? So my answer to this kind of depends on what you liked about Les Mis. If you want something that is historical from the same composer, if you like the type of music from Les Mis, then something like The Pirate Queen, which is about Grania O'Malley, or Miss Saigon, which is about the last days of the Vietnam War, might be your bag. A lot of people tend to jump from Les Mis to Phantom of the Opera. It's another 80s mega musical. It has very similar singing styles and a lot of actors kind of jump between Phantom and Les Mis. It's funny because a lot of my favourite history musicals are not similar to Les Mis at all in terms of their vocal style. You know, Hamilton has a similar revolutionary theme, but if you're not a big fan of hip hop and rap, it could be a bit of an acquired taste. Six is technically a history musical, but it is more of a pop musical. It feels more like a concert than an actual story. And Come From Away is brilliant, but once again, very different style. It has much more of a contemporary musical theatre sound. I think a good recommendation actually for jumping from Les Mis to a new musical would probably be The Hunchback of Notre Dame, which is adapted from the Disney film. A lot of the music from the film carries over, but it has a much grimmer tone. It's obviously adapted from Victor Hugo, once again, like Les Mis, and the music has a very, very similar vocal style to Les Mis. And also, Hunchback of Notre Dame just needs more love, in my opinion. Apologies, I had to momentarily pause the video because despite the fact that I did not have time to bake a cake, it is Shrove Tuesday, so of course, I've ordered myself a crepe. So that gives me extra incentive to get through these questions because I really want to eat it. My friend Rachel at Bookish Historian asks, who wins, Gilbert Blythe or Mr. Darcy? There is a correct answer. The context to this is that Rachel is a massive fan of Green Gables. So of course I know what the correct answer is. And of course that is Mr. Knightley. I mean, Rachel, what is it that you are asking? Because I feel like in a physical fight, Mr. Darcy would definitely win. If we know anything from the 1995 BBC adaptation with Colin Firth, like Mr. Darcy is pretty physical. Like he can ride horses, he can fence, he can swim. Boy, can he swim. He can probably duel with pistols. Though maybe that isn't what you're meaning and you're thinking about in terms of personality and who would be a better boyfriend. In which case, between Gilbert and Mr. Darcy, I will concede I would probably want to go out with Gilbert Blythe more than Mr. Darcy. Yes, he is a wonderful romantic hero. Yes, he is iconic for a reason. But I do feel like for myself, my personality is too close to Mr. Darcy to actually want to date him. I definitely benefit from being around people who are a little bit more extroverted than I am because it really gets me out of my shell. So I've always said that I would have to date someone who is a bit more outgoing than me because otherwise we just end up at home in our comfort zone not doing anything, which, you know, we would enjoy, but we probably wouldn't be quite as fulfilled by that. So in that case, definitely Gilbert Blythe would win. If you didn't work in publishing, what would you do? And I'm not 100% sure because I know that publishing is what I wanted to do, but I did go back to uni for public history, and so I probably would have gone down the public history route, whether that was working in a museum. Ideally, if I couldn't do publishing, I would have liked to go down another media avenue, whether it was film and TV to do with history. Maybe being a podcast producer for a history podcast. That would be good fun. What are some of your comfort watches? Most things I watch are comfort watches. I am very, very bad at only going back and watching or listening to things that I already know that I love. I'm really bad at watching or listening to things that are new to me. Every year, one of my New Year's resolutions is to watch new movies, watch new TV shows, listen to new music, and I always end up reverting back to my old favourites because they feel safe. All of my favourite films I've watched at least 10 times. I can quote them for you. This has also graduated into me watching reaction videos. It's one of my guilty pleasures. I watch reaction videos of creators watching for the first time, debatable whether they're actually watching it for the first time or if it's just for clicks, to a lot of my favourite movies. I probably have watched Game of Thrones 100 times just from seeing other people's reaction videos to Game of Thrones. And I go from season 1 episode 1 to season 8 episode 6. The whole way through, I watch every single one. I don't know that that is necessarily a good use of my time, but it is how I've spent my time. But some comfort watches, aside from Game of Thrones, which is probably not much of a comfort watch, but it's familiar. I was brought up on Bridget Jones and Notting Hill. I love 10 Things I Hate About You, When Harry Met Sally. In terms of shows, Friends is obviously a comfort watch, as is Downton Abbey. That became me and my mum's comfort watch during COVID. And whenever I've seen a historical TV series that I haven't liked too much, we've always been like, why are we not just watching Downton Abbey? It's so much better. What is your dream musical theatre role? You say that like I only have one. So for those of you who don't know, I love musical theatre and I'm in a musical theatre society here in Oxford. So I do Amdram shows twice a year. I'm a soprano, so those tend to be the roles that I go for, or a mezzo role that doesn't have high belt notes in there because I can't do it. I can't belt. So obviously Belle in Beauty and the Beast, you know, you want a brunette soprano bookworm. Hello. If we ever do Beauty and the Beast, I'll just rock up to the audition like, Hello, it's me, Sarah in Guys and Dolls. I recently saw Guys and Dolls at the Bridge Theatre and fell completely in love with that show. And although Adelaide is a very fun role, I'm definitely much more for Sarah Brown. Fantine in Les Mis, because I'm pretty sure I have aged out of Eponine and Cosette, but I do love Fantine, she's a fantastic role. And one that is actually coming up for us is Maria in The Sound of Music. Our show after Jesus Christ Superstar is The Sound of Music. Auditions are in 6 months, and I'm feeling fine about it. I'm not freaking out at all. But yeah, that is one of my biggest dream roles. I would love to play Maria. Would you rather encounter 1 horse-sized duck or 10 duck-sized horses? I think I would have to go for the 10 duck-sized horses because, you know, you and I went to York. We don't need to be dealing with ducks that are as big as a horse. I think we're traumatized enough. And Rachel's last question, if you were to write a book, what genre or topic would you choose? And I think it probably would be historical fiction. I don't think I have the knowledge to write a non-fiction history book as much as I might want to. So I think I would be dipping my toes into historical fiction. Because also that would have the freedom of creative license, and so I could have a little bit of fun with it. Final lot of questions comes from Miss Timmy 1987. First question being your favourite fictional heroine. Obviously I'm a massive Jane Austen fan and I love her heroines. It's always a bit of a toss-up between Emma Woodhouse and Elizabeth Bennet, but I do think that Emma Woodhouse comes out on top. I just love how flawed she is. She really makes me laugh. Though I will say that Elizabeth Bennet is obviously somebody I would like to emulate a lot more than Emma Woodhouse. She's not a heroine per se because she doesn't lead her book, but one of my favourite female characters is Sansa Stark from Game of Thrones, A Song of Ice and Fire. It was the first time that I'd ever come across a fictional character who I felt a lot of kinship with, who I felt was the most similar to me, particularly when I was a teenager. Second question is your favourite era in history. It's a very typical answer, but 1930s England. I just love the drama. And the last question of this Q&A, advice you'd give to your younger self. Something that I've tried to bring to this channel is not to feel ashamed of the things that you're passionate about. There was definitely a period of time when I was a younger teenager where I felt like I had to clamp down, blunt myself out and try to hide things that I was interested in. I very quickly learned not to do that, but it's something that I wish I never had done. That it's okay to do things at your own time, at your own speed. You are not behind. And a final one for studying, Charlotte, which is you can edit a piece of writing that is bad. You can't edit nothing, so just put words down on the page. Sort them out later. I know you, young Charlotte, you are such a procrastinator. Who am I kidding? Current Charlotte is also a procrastinator. So there we go. Those are all of the questions that I got for my 500 video Q&A. Thank you so much to everybody who submitted questions. If you have any more, please leave them down below. And thank you so much for watching through 500 videos. I really do appreciate it. I hope you're having a fantastic day and I look forward to talking to you again soon. Thanks. Bye.